Thank you for playing the music. Praise Yah. Let's begin. Let's have a word of prayer and get started. Most High Yahweh, we're grateful and thankful for all you have done and continue to do for us. We pray that your spirit, your grace would be upon us as we continue to study your word. In the name of the Messiah, we pray. Amen. So previously, we looked at the two resurrections. We looked at the character preparation that is necessary, character preparation that is necessary for the entrance into the kingdom of Yah. That is especially true of us who are alive in the last days of Earth's history. It is especially true because there are among us going to be people that never taste of death. What do I mean by that? Well, Messiah is going to return to the earth. And when he returns to the earth, there are going to be people on the earth that belong to him, that are alive, that have been born on this earth and that are alive, right? And they would have never died. So there's people that are going to be on the earth when Messiah returns that belong to him that would have never died. Of course, we already studied today or earlier in the last lesson about the first resurrection. So the people that belong to Messiah that have died will be resurrected into life again. And just to just complete a more complete study or a more complete finish to that, there's more we can discuss, but let's talk about the first resurrection for a moment in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 15. And I just want to decide where I should start because there's a lot in here. Okay, I'm going to start at verse 35 and go down to verse 50. No, from verse 35. Let's read it in parts, Isha. Let's go from verse 35 down to verse 41, and then we'll read it in parts till we get to the end, okay? So from 1 Corinthians 15, from verse 35 to verse 41. But some man will say, how are the dead raised up? And with what body do they come? Thou fool, that which thou sowest is not quickened, except it die. And that which thou sowest not that body that shall be, but bear grain, it may chance of wheat or some other grain. But Yah giveth it to a body as it pleaseth him, and to every seed his own body. All flesh is not the same flesh. There is one kind of flesh of men, another flesh of beasts, another of fishes, another of birds. There are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial. But the glory of the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another. There is one glory of the sun, another glory of the moon, another glory of the stars. One star differeth from another star in glory. So all flesh is not the same. Human beings have different flesh than animals, although it's all flesh, and we have different flesh than birds and different flesh than fishes. All the flesh is not the same. So he says there are bodies that are celestial, heavenly, and there are bodies that are earthly that are called terrestrial. Okay, so you have two different types of flesh with the human being in it. One could be celestial, one can be terrestrial. Terrestrial means earthly, and the celestial means heavenly. So there's a heavenly body and an earthly body. So let's stop right here for a minute. That means there's two types of flesh with regard to human beings. There's a heavenly one and an earthly one. Everybody with me so far? There's a heavenly one and an earthly one. And the question was asked, how are the dead raised up? Talking about the dead in the first resurrection, the dead that are raised up in the first resurrection, how are they raised? So obviously, we're in a terrestrial body now, but obviously after the first resurrection, there will be a celestial body. Okay, let's continue from verse 42 down to verse 48. So also is the resurrection of the dead. It is sown in corruption. It is raised in incorruption. It is sown in dishonor. It is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness. It is raised in power. It is sown a natural body. It is raised a spiritual body. There is a natural body and there is a spiritual body. And so it is written, the first man, Adam, was made a living soul. The last Adam was made a quickening spirit. Howbeit that was not first which is spiritual, but that which is natural, and afterward that which is spiritual. The first man is of the earth, earthy. The second man is the master from heaven. As is the earthy, such are they also that are earthy. As is the heavenly, such are they also that are heavenly. So just for the sake of, there's people that have messed this up and confused it. Let's try to make it plain here. The first Adam, is the man made from the ground of the earth by the Most High in his own image. The second Adam is Messiah. Everybody got me? Testing 1, 2, 3. The second Adam is Messiah. First one is our father of the race. The second one is Messiah. What do they both have in common? Their daddy is the same. Okay? They have the same daddy. Adam was created by the father. So therefore, the father is his daddy. Correct? Messiah brought forth of a woman, but is the son of the father. The father is his daddy. Joseph was not the daddy. The father is the daddy. The Father's spirit, more specifically, is the daddy of Messiah. So the first one is made from the earth. He was made from the ground. The second one was made by the Father's spirit. Testing 1, 2, 3. I want to make sure we got that. So the first one was made from the ground. It was made from the dust of the ground. The second one was made from the Father's spirit. Okay? Father's spirit was the seed. Remember, that which is conceived in her, the angel Gabriel said, is of the set apart spirit. That is the Father's spirit. Okay. Okay. So now Adam is earthly, Messiah is heavenly. So we're going to be taken after the Messiah. Why? Because the Father's spirit that brought forth Messiah brings us forth new. Okay. Brings us forth new. Okay. The same spirit, the Father's spirit, brings us forth newness of life. Okay. Now, verse 49, from verse 49 down to verse 54. Verse 49 down to verse 54. And as we have borne the image of the earthy, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly. Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Yah, neither doth corruption inherit incorruption. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we, that is those of us alive, shall be changed. For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal shall put on immortality. Okay? So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory. So we're not going to have the same flesh we have now. It's going to be celestial flesh. When he says, I've heard some people speak this foolishness, because he says flesh and blood shall not inherit the kingdom of heaven. People say, well, we're going to be walking around as spirits. That is not true. he said, we just read earlier where he said there are celestial bodies. It says it, celestial bodies. So and all flesh is not the same. So we'll have the body of celestial flesh, flesh that will never decay. It will never get old. It will never get wrinkled. No need for Botox. No need for tummy tucks, right? No need for fake breasts. No need for any of that. We're going to have a new body that will never get old. A celestial body. Okay. And the Bible says it's going to change. Like the people that are resurrected are going to be resurrected with those new bodies. The people that are already alive, he says, we shall not all sleep. In other words, we're not all going to be dead, but we all going to be changed. So some are going to be resurrected and some are going to be changed. And he said, in the twinkling of an eye, in a split moment, those of us alive are going to be changed into celestial bodies. Those celestial bodies will be a match for the spiritual mind that has been given us through Messiah. Those celestial bodies will be a match for the mind of the spirit of righteousness that has been given us through Messiah. You understand? Okay? And the people that are resurrected have rested in death. They will be brought forth with the mind of the spirit and the body of the spirit. Okay, those that belong to the Most High. All right. And then you got verse 55 to 58. Okay, 55 to 58. 1 Corinthians 15, 55 to 58. Oh, okay. Wait. Okay, yeah. O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? The sting of death is sin, and the strength of sin is the law. But thanks be to Yah, which giveth us the victory through the Master, Yahushua, the Messiah. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of Yahweh, for as much as ye know that your labor is not in vain in Yahweh. So, yeah, so we will be changed into incorruptible celestial bodies that will never die. See, the earthly body is given to corruption, get old, gets weak, right? Gets diseased, gets pain. The celestial body will have none of that. Eternally youthful, eternally powerful, eternally celestial, a different flesh, a celestial flesh. Will become celestial beings. Like Messiah is a celestial being. All right. Praise the Most High Yah. Okay. That's how we're going to be. So now let's turn to Deuteronomy chapter 16. Deuteronomy chapter 16. Now, I just want to review some things that we really already understand, but I just want to bring them back because it's important because of what people have been teaching. But Deuteronomy, just want to make sure we're clear. Deuteronomy is a conversation between the Father and the nation of Israel through Moses, right? Deuteronomy is a conversation between the Father and the nation of Israel through Moses. That's what the book of Deuteronomy is. In fact, that's what the whole Bible is a conversation between the Most High and his people through a prophet that has been given a message. In this case, it's Moses that is bearing witness, and Moses is greater than all prophets because he said he speaks to prophets in vision and dream. He speaks to Moses direct. And so Moses is speaking to the nation, and the Father is giving Moses what to say. Okay? Now, Deuteronomy chapter 16 talks about the feasts, because the feasts were not given to any other people but the Israelite people. All right, I want to make that clear. The feasts were not given to any other people but the Israelite people, and they were given to the Israelite people at Mount Sinai. And included in those feasts was the Jubilee celebration. It was not given to any other nation. It was not given to any other people. That's why people that talk about Jubilees prior to the establishment of the nation of Israel have no idea what they're talking about. There was no Jubilee before there was a nation. And the Jubilee is a representation of the forgiveness of all sin and all debts. That did not take place until Moses was given, it was given to him in Mount Sinai. They did not keep these feasts before that. All right. So it was given to the Israelite nation. It was given through Moses, and it was given to be taking place on the promised land. It was not given to be taking place all over the place. It was given to be taking place in the promised land. And let's take a look. Deuteronomy chapter 16. I'm going to start at verse 5 and 6. Let's start there. In the first, there's 3 feasts, and the first one is the Passover. And here it is, Deuteronomy 16, verse 5 and 6. Okay? Thou mayest, Moses talking to the nation, thou mayest not sacrifice the Passover within any of thy gates, which Yahweh thy Most High giveth thee, but at the place which Yahweh thy Most High shall choose to place his name in, there thou shalt sacrifice the Passover at even, at the going down of the sun, at the season that thou camest forth out of Egypt. So he's saying you can't just keep this any place you want to, but I'm choosing a special place for you to do this. And there you're going to sacrifice the Passover at the place I choose for you. See, I've heard some people say, well, he's in our hearts, so we can do it anywhere. No. This is about a place, a physical place. See, the place is a physical place, and this is not just anywhere. It's the place he chooses. And we know what place he chose. The Bible told us. Matter of fact, just for those that are still trying to tell me you could keep it anywhere you want, let me just show you this. Chronicles. Chronicles chapter, let's see. Second Chronicles chapter. Let's begin at chapter. I'm going to begin at chapter 7, verse 12. Chapter 7, verse 12. And let's go from verse 12 to verse 16. Chapter 7 of Second Chronicles, from verse 12 to verse 16. Watch carefully. We're going to come right back to Deuteronomy. Just want to show you can't just keep feasts anywhere you want to. You can't. Not if you're going to be obedient to the Most High. Okay, notice what it said. And Yahweh appeared to Solomon by night and said unto him, I have heard thy prayer and have chosen this place to myself for a house of sacrifice. The place which he shall choose is the place that Solomon built the temple. It's Jerusalem. If I shut up heaven that there be no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now mine eyes shall be open and my ears attent unto the prayer that is made in this place. For now have I chosen and sanctified this house, that my name may be there forever, and my eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. Okay? So the people that are keeping feasts now in different parts of the earth, the Israelites that are awakening, that are keeping feasts, I'm not saying you shouldn't try to get together and have feasts of love and charity and do it in the same time that these feasts were doing. But don't think you're keeping it the way you're supposed to. That's what I'm trying to tell people. Some people try to act like the feast that they're keeping are the proper way to do it, the proper place to do it. No, you can't do it outside of Jerusalem. You can't do it outside the place he chose. And we definitely can't do it in Jerusalem where the heathen are right now. We can only do it in the New Jerusalem. The New Jerusalem. We are going to do it there. Okay? But now when the Bible talks about feasts of charity, where brethren get together and have feasts, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't want anybody to think that they're actually keeping a Bible feast. You're not. You're not going to until we get to the kingdom. Okay, you're not going to. That's why Messiah told even the brethren, he said, I will not drink this wine with you until we drink it new in my Father's kingdom. Okay. So he said, I chose this house that my name may be there forever. Now, again, let's just keep reading from verse 17 down to verse 22. Even that house that he chose. Notice what it says. And as for thee, if thou, talking to Solomon, if thou wilt walk before me, as David thy father walked, and do according to all that I have commanded thee, and shall observe my statutes and my judgments, then will I establish the throne of thy kingdom, according as I have covenanted with David thy father, saying, there shall not fail thee a man to be ruler in Israel. But if you turn away and forsake my statutes and my commandments, which I have set before you, and shall go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I pluck them up by the roots out of my land, which I have given them. And this house, which I have sanctified for my name, I will cast out of my sight, and will make it to be a proverb and a byword among the nations. And this house, which is high, shall be an astonishment to everyone that passeth by it, so that he shall say, why hath Yahweh done thus unto this land and unto this house? And it shall be answered, because they forsook Yahweh, the Most High of their fathers, and which brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other gods, and worshipped them, and served them. Therefore hath he brought all this evil upon them. See, so that was what happened. And we know that that house got destroyed. They rebuilt it and built the next house. That one got destroyed. The last temple we're going to see, the last Jerusalem we're going to see, is the new one, and there'll be no rebellion there. Okay. Now, before we go back to Deuteronomy, 2 Chronicles chapter 8, I'm going to read verse 12 and 13 of 2 Chronicles chapter 8. Notice what it says. 2 Chronicles 8, 12 and 13, right before we go back to Deuteronomy. Then Solomon offered burnt offerings unto Yahweh on the altar of Yahweh, which he had built before the porch, even after a certain rate every day, offering according to the commandment of Moses on the Sabbaths, and on the new moons, and on the solemn feasts, 3 times in the year, even the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles. Just for clarification, how many feasts did they name in verse 13? How many feasts are there? How many did they name? 3. Did they say 7 or 10? No, 3. And he named them. He said, Feast of Unleavened Bread, that's the Passover. Feast of Weeks, that's the Pentecost. Feast of Tabernacles, that's the harvest at the end of the year. They give it different phrases, but it's the same feast. It's only 3. People get confused because a lot of people out here trying to teach and not doing it properly and talking about there's 7 and they're calling it a Feast of Trumpets. There is no such thing as a Feast of Trumpets. There is a holy convocation in preparation for the Day of Atonement. And the first day of the 7th month, that's not a feast. That's preparation for a day of fasting. Then 5 days after the 10th day, which is the 15th day of the 7th month, is the Feast of Tabernacles. Okay, let's go back to Deuteronomy chapter 16. Okay, so now we see the feasts are not done every place, but in the place which he chooses. Okay, let's continue. Let's go back. Deuteronomy chapter 16. Let's read from verse 10. But from verse 10 down to verse 16. And thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto Yahweh thy Most High, with the tribute of a freewill offering of thy hand, which thou shalt give unto Yahweh thy Most High, according as Yahweh thy Most High hath blessed thee. And thou shalt rejoice before Yahweh thy Most High. Rejoice, thou and thy son. This is a real feast. And thy daughter and thy manservant and thy maidservant, and the Levite that is within thy gates, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow that are among you in the place which Yahweh thy Most High hath chosen to place his name there. And there thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in Egypt, and thou shalt observe and do these statutes. Thou shalt observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days. After that thou hast gathered in thy corn and thy wine, and thou shalt rejoice in thy feast. That's what you do in a feast. You party and you rejoice. And thou and thy son and thy daughter and thy manservant and thy maidservant. See, even the heathen that are converted and become manservant and maidservant, they're also what? Rejoicing. And the Levite and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow that are within thy gates. 7 days thou shalt keep a solemn feast unto Yahweh thy Most High in the place which Yahweh shall choose, because Yahweh thy Most High shall bless thee in all thy increase and in all the works of thy hands. Therefore thou shalt surely rejoice. 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before Yahweh thy Most High in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles. And they shall not appear before Yahweh empty. Now I just want to also point this out. When they first got into the land, these feasts were held in Ephraim. That's the place he initially chose. And if you recall, Joshua, the son of Nun, he was of the tribe of Ephraim, and they brought the Ark of the Covenant with him, with the Levites with him, to Ephraim, and they set it up there in Shiloh. So at first, everybody gathered in Shiloh because that was the place Yahweh had chosen. But then when David came, he chose what? Judah. And that's why Solomon built a temple at Jerusalem. Everybody got me? So that's why he didn't actually name the place. He said the place which he shall choose, because that place was where the priest brought the Ark of the Covenant. Where the Ark of the Covenant is, that's where the feast is. Because the Ark of the Covenant is a representation of the Father's presence. Everybody got me? The Ark of the Covenant. Remember now, nobody could even touch the Ark of the Covenant. And the only people that were allowed to carry it was a certain sect of the Levites. Not every Levite could even do it. And so where the Ark of the Covenant is, where that tent was set up, that's the place he chose. So at first it was Shiloh in Ephraim. Then later it became Jerusalem in Judah. Okay? 3 times a year. Now we don't have the Ark of the Covenant with us right now. We're going to. Remember, Revelation chapter 11, remember that verse 19? And the tabernacle in heaven was open, and there was seen in the temple in heaven the Ark of his testament. See, we're going to see that again. The Most High is going to bring back the original, the one that was not made with hands. Okay? Praise the Most High, yeah. So we can see now, we're going to keep feasts in the kingdom. The feasts were created for the nation of Israel, but the strangers, the handmaids also, the servants, they all rejoice with us. What does that mean? That means the nations of them which are saved are also going to keep the same feast. Testing 1, 2, 3. Are you following me? You're also going to keep the same feast. Praise Yah. Okay. Now, again, I just want to stress, I'm not trying to denounce the brethren that are keeping feasts in the United States of America or wherever you want to keep them. Fine. You're rejoicing with your brethren. Go ahead and do that. But I don't want anybody to think this is a test of fellowship or is a test of being an Israelite if you don't keep these feasts in your enemy's land. No. Please, no. Okay? Really. None of us know what we're doing. Brothers and sisters, the truth is none of us know what we're doing, and we won't really know until we get into the kingdom with the Most High Yah. Okay? It's all good. It's all good. Really, it's all good. Praise the Most High. Okay? Now, let's go to Zechariah chapter 14. Zechariah chapter 14. Second resurrection time. You see that? Okay. Let's start again at verse 12. And let's read from verse 12 to verse 15. Zechariah chapter 14 from verse 12 to verse 15. And this shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. It shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from Yahweh shall be among them. They shall lay hold every one on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. And Judah also shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance. So shall be the plague of the horse, of the mule, of the camel, of the ass, of all the beasts that shall be in these tents as this plague. So everything is going to be destroyed by this plague, except the precious things that come to the Most High's chosen people. Diamonds and gold and all that's going to be out. So all the Bible says all the riches of the heathen are laid up for the righteous. Praise the Most High, Yah. We're not going to need dollar bills with dead presidents on them, so don't get that twisted. But he said gold, right? He said gold, silver, apparel in great abundance. Praise the Most High, Yah. Okay? So now, at the second resurrection, there's no more Asatan. There's no more wicked. There's no more rebellion. And that comes to pass, Revelation 21. There shall be no more curse. New heaven, a new earth. Former things are passed away. All things new. Praise Yah. But now Zechariah is going to, basically, he's going to, in a funny way, I don't mean that to be fresh, but this is a prophet of Yah, but I mean, in a strange way, he's going to describe how there'll be no more wicked, but he's going to do it this way. Watch. Zechariah chapter 14, verse 16, 17, 18, and 19. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations, that is the heathen, which came against Jerusalem, shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, Yahweh of hosts, and to keep the feast of the tabernacles. See? Everybody, the strangers that are saved, the nations of them that are saved, they're going to keep the feast of the tabernacles. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families to worship the King, Yahweh of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the feast of the tabernacle. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all nations that come not up to keep the feast of the tabernacles. So it's not going to be some people left that are going to refuse to obey. Everybody that's going to be on the earth at the end of the second resurrection is going to be obedient. He's basically saying there's not going to be anybody around that's going to rebel. Y'all understand? See what I'm saying? So he's not saying they're going to be existing and then they're going to be maybe another rebellion. There's not going to be any more rebellion. That's what I say. The Bible says in chapter 22, there'll be no more curse. That means no more rebellion. And so what he's really saying is there's not going to be any heathen alive that's not going to be serving the Most High and keeping the Feast of the Tabernacles. We're all going to do that together. Praise the Most High, Yah. Okay, two more verses. Verses 20 and 21. In that day there shall be upon the bells of the horses holiness unto Yahweh. See, that was on the mitre too, right? That was on the mitre as well, right? Holiness unto Yahweh. And the pots of Yahweh's house shall be like the bowls before the altar. Everything is going to be holy. Yea, every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah shall be holiness unto Yahweh of hosts, and all they that sacrifice shall come and take of them and seed therein. And in that day there shall be no more Canaanite in the house of Yahweh of hosts. No more Canaanite. That means no more rebellious. Nobody that's rebellious that was on the land is going to remain. And that goes along with Revelation chapter 21. And these will be the last scriptures. Revelation chapter 21. Again, we read this last night, but it goes with this last part of Zechariah. Notice again, Revelation chapter 21, from verse 23 down to verse 27. Revelation 21 from 23 to 27. Notice what it says here. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of Yahweh did lighten it. And the Lamb is the light thereof. And the nations, here's the heathen, and the nations of them which are saved, that's them, shall walk in the light of it. And the kings of the earth, that is the heathen, do bring their glory and honor into it. And the gates of it shall not be shutted all by day. That was also in Zechariah. For there shall be no night there. It's also in Isaiah. And they shall bring the glory and honor of the nations into it. And there shall in no wise enter into it anything that defileth, neither whatsoever worketh abomination or maketh a lie, but they which are written in the Lamb's book of life. You see that? So there'll be no more abominable thing. There'll be no more rebellion against the covenant of Yah. Also, again, Revelation chapter 22 in verse 1, 2, and 3. Notice what it says here. Revelation 22, actually 1, 2, 3, and 4. And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of Yah. Again, that was also in Zechariah 14, and of the Lamb. And in the midst of the street of it, on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. That is, the heathen that are saved, they're going to be healed through this tree of life. Praise the Most High. And there shall be no more curse. That means no more sin, no more rebellion. But the throne of Yah and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him. And they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. See? So when you compare these scriptures, you get a picture of what's happening. There's going to be a chosen place, the New Jerusalem. We're going to keep the feast there. Praise Yah. All the redeemed, both those of the bloodline and those of the nations of the Gentiles that are redeemed, are going to keep the feast. We're going to keep it together. Feast of Tabernacles. That's the Feast of Harvest. That's the one where the harvest at the end of the year, because we're the harvest. Praise Yah. And it's also the one where they bring the palm branches and they make houses they make tents out of the palm tree branches. That's why in Revelation chapter 7, you see the people standing before the throne with palms in their hand. Notice this, Revelation chapter 7. Revelation 7. Notice Revelation chapter 7, verse 9. Revelation 7, verse 9. Notice what it says. Revelation chapter 7, verse 9. And after this, I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. Did you notice they had palms in their hands? Now, everybody has palms in their hands, except for one group of people. There's one group of people that don't have palms in their hands. Notice again, Revelation chapter 14. Revelation chapter 14, verses 1 to 3. Revelation 14, 1 to 3. Everybody has palms because it's the Feast of Tabernacles. Messiah is coming back on the Feast of Tabernacles. And everybody gonna have palms in their hand except one group of people. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps. And they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders. And no man could learn that song, but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. 144,000 will be singing a song. Everybody will have the palm branches in their hands and giving praise. It's the Feast of the Tabernacle. That first one is going to be special. Praise the Most High Yah. That first one's going to be special. Can you imagine? Adam never held the Feast of Tabernacles. He's going to. So is Noah. So is Seth. So is Enos, Methuselah, Lamech, before the flood people. Feast of Tabernacles. With the nation of Israel and all the children of the nation of Israel, both during the time of his existence, Abraham too. That's right. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and their 12 sons, and all their children, and all the heathen that are redeemed because of the message of their children. Praise Yah. Because of the message given to them of the children, the strangers. Everybody's going to rejoice. But those that are rebellious against the Father's Spirit, they'll be destroyed. And they will not rise again. And we see the plague of fire that's going to destroy them. And the Bible says they shall be as though they had not been. It will be no sign that the wicked ever existed on planet Earth, except in one exception, The marks on Messiah's body will remain to remind us of what sin cost. But aside from that, there'll be no reminders on earth that they were ever here. There'll be nothing left behind of them to remind us they ever existed. They'll be destroyed, and all their works with them. Praise the Most High. Let's have a word of prayer. Most High Yahweh, please continue to guide and direct our